is indeed a place of legend. There is power and vast riches as well. But many who've sought to claim them have simply vanished without a trace. Your ship is stocked and your crew assembled. Chart your course and your fate. We can pretend no longer. This corruption must be stopped. I will say a prayer for the souls of your crew.
Welcome everybody to a new episode of the New World Compendium, your source of information, as always, here in Aeternum. I'm your host Arkaniir Silvershield, and I have a full cast here and a very special guest. Starting with the real-life crafter himself, mainly a woodworker, Stormzlord. How's it going, Storms?
Doing good. Corey gets a treat in my basement today, so there you go.
Well, even if it's your basement, the audio is pretty neat, so hopefully nothing breaks and we'll have a smooth show.
Sounds good.
Also joining us, the governor of the NA company, of the Hands of Fate, the voice on the show, Sivian. How's it going, Sivian?
Good, how are you guys?
Doing good. So have the storms been calming down?
The storm is through, the storm is gone. Thankfully, the house did not get struck by lightning, although the neighbors did, but we're good. Computer's fine.
Well, that's always good because we are very close to the release.
The computer's good. Right?
Kids are good too. Kids are fine.
Kids are good too. Yeah, you know.
This is no time to break your computer. So joining us as mentioned as a special guest, hailing from the Robots Radio Podcasting Network, Robots himself, to talk all things Play New World. How's it going, Robots?
Hey, Ark. I'm super excited to be here today, especially because I had a burning question for you guys. And I was wondering if I could just pitch it here right at the beginning.
Yeah.
This is something I've been a little bit curious about, and I know that you guys are experts on the subject. And I've just kind of been a little bit embarrassed to ask anybody so far. But what exactly do the letters MMO stand for?
Massive Multiplayer Online.
Okay, good. I hadn't been able to ask that yet, so now I know. So thank you for answering that for me.
Thank you for asking for me as well.
Okay,
because
good.
I didn't know.
Good. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, I can share all of my knowledge about whatever MMOs are with you guys. So, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, see you later then.
Chunk, wrong button.
So what are we doing here? What is this place? Where am I?
Yeah, what is New World? This
What's
thing
the New
we're
World?
about to
What is
talk-
it?
yeah.
What is this?
Apparently, it has something to do with Amazon.
Yeah, is this a shipping
I'm not
game?
sure. But, you
This
know.
is it's the cargo delivery game or something like that. Death
You know,
Stranding
that-
2.
Cool. Wait. Patent that one. Hold on.
Yeah.
But to be a little bit more serious, I'm very excited for New World and a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. And genuinely, thank you for inviting me on the show today because Ark and I have known each other for a while, especially around the Elder Scrolls circles. We both do Elder Scrolls podcasts, and we both are in some ways tied to the hip to Lotus of Doom. So you know, we're kind of cousins, sort of podcasting cousins. But thanks for having me here.
Well, thanks for making the time because it was a very short notice. Like, we weren't planning to record, and then they announced the big news of today that we are going to talk about, mainly the open beta stuff. And I messaged Rob, I was like, do you want to jump on the show in just a few hours? So thank you for making time, and it's nice to have you here. And as you said, we do know each other. We have collaborated in before in the Elder Scrolls community. We even share a co-host. But for anyone who doesn't know you in the New World side of things, what do you do? Where can people find what you do? It's a little bit of introduction.
Well, I do run the Robots Radio Podcast Network, and that was something that grew out of the podcasts that I run. And I actually do, 7 or 8 of them at this point myself, and help a lot of other people. I have a bunch of podcasts on the network. I also work with a bunch of new podcasters on another side of the network that I call the Robots Radio Rocket Club. And I help them get started with their shows, learn how to market their shows, how to create good shows, and everything from the technical side to the marketing side, all of that kind of stuff. So I do a lot with that, but then I also have my own shows, and started with shows like the Fallout Lorecast, the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, got into Cyberpunk and Dungeons and Dragons and Mass Effect and a whole bunch of other things. So most of those shows are focused on the lore of the games, but I like to delve into gameplay discussions and all sorts of other stuff as well. So if it has to do with role-playing games in general, then usually it has my interest. So
there you go. Yeah, and
that's where I am.
As you mentioned, you have a lot of Lorecast shows, and I'm really curious about your thoughts on the lore side and questing and whatnot of the show, because that seems to be the main debate among the community as well. Everyone's really happy about the gameplay side of things, but the lore and questing seems to be the conflicting point. So once we get through the news, I'm gonna ask you about what your experience with it has been so far. But before we get into all that, because I don't remember if we recorded another show within August. This might be the first episode of August since the closed beta. I don't really remember. So a round of shoutouts to all of our Patreons and Twitch supporters, mainly SDDLC, the champion of DCN, and Noodle El Dante, the knight of DCN. Thanks so much for your support. We also had some 5-star review on iTunes. They did not have any comments, but if you give us a feedback or a comment on those reviews, this will be where we read them and bring those into the show. And if you want to join the discussions, if you are listening us live, just feel free to chat with us in chat on Twitch. We'll do our best to reply and bring your opinions into the show. And if you are listening to this on audio form or on YouTube, feel free to comment or send us an email at dungeoncrawlernetwork@gmail.com.
Hey, Ark, can I throw something in here real quick?
Yeah.
Noodle Al Dente also helps support the Elder Scrolls Lorecast Patreon. So I just wanted to say hi to Noodle. Hi, Noodle. Noodle's awesome.
He's a legend.
Noodle is a legend.
They are just great people all around. And that's one of the beauty of having this podcasting collaboration, I guess, that we have in Elder Scrolls side, and it's been building up in New World side as well. Lore Seekers now do a New World show. Solus has just started his New World show. Bob from Red Diamond Courier, who I believe is also part of Robots Radio Network as well. He's starting a New World show too. So we have that camaraderie there now starting in New World as well, and that community side of it is really the beauty of podcasting to me, because I feel like podcasting is unique in that regard more so than YouTube content or Twitch content, in the sense of being able to just create a common community across multiple shows.
Yeah,
all those supporters are all of the supporters are legends. 5-star reviews, all of you. We wouldn't be here without you.
Yep,
absolutely. I answered a question on our Discord recently where somebody made some sort of passing comments about competition among podcasters, and I kind of politely corrected them, and I was like, you know what? There really isn't a lot of competition among podcasters. Oftentimes, people might perceive it that way, but really, we all, especially among similar fandoms, we all tend to embrace each other. We see each other as kind of more siblings and friends in the space, and not as competitors. We don't see it as like, oh, they stole my listener. No, chances are you probably have listened to all the different shows, and you might pick one or two that you like more than the others, but it's not really seen as competition. We like to welcome everybody into the community, and we all just create things in our own ways, and hopefully you find the stuff that you like the most.
Yeah, it's not like, it's not like you go live at the same time. Well, sometimes you do, but it's not like you overlap your stream times or something like that people can only listen to one. The beauty of the podcast is they can listen one on Monday, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday. So just spread the whole thing out. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, so we do have a lot to discuss, and I do want to not keep you guys here for several hours like I generally do on other shows. We are gonna get right into
till 10, so there you go.
Mm-hmm. So, big news, we are gonna have, as expected, a new open beta in September. It was just announced earlier today while we are recording this during Gamescom opening live night, and it's going to be a short one, running from September 9 to September 12 only. So just 3 days of mass open beta. Now, this is great for convincing all of your friends who refused to pre-order the game or were reluctant about trying it. Get them all into the game. That we will all be able to request access on Steam on September 8th, and I assume pre-download it. So yeah, it's just 3 days of one last playtime before we get to the launch. And people are hyped about this. Even though it's just a short, and even though the progress will be wiped again, people are losing it, at least over on Twitter. From what I've seen,
oh, for sure.
It's insane hype.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, Dark, but in that post, there was obviously mentions about the population issues, as well as the server issues. In 3 days, both of you coming from, and Robots, excuse me, I'm not sure your background, but the two of you have that coding and that game design background.
Mine has coding, but yeah.
Sure. What can you really push on 3 days, right? Is that really focusing on the back end server issues?
No, and that's what it is, right? That's what tells you what their beta is about. And what the problems they had before was everybody jumping in at once. Mm-hmm. So what they don't want to have is on their official release, the same thing happen. Because in 3 days, even if you stay up 24 hours a day for 3 days, you may get to level 60, right? You'll be dead, but you get to 60. It's they're testing the number of people getting on. That's what it's not a security fix. This tells you what they were fixing. Mm-hmm. It was that initial load. Yeah. Go ahead.
Even in their article, it says like we ran into server issues and overpopulation stuff, and just merging everyone into just a 3-day window with open beta. We'll see if they broke anything else or what they fixed.
Well, this is the bane of every MMO is launch day, right? Every single time a new MMO goes live, that's the big question. Is it going to crash and burn at launch, or are they going to be able to accommodate everybody who wants to get on and play?
Look at World of Warcraft Classic.
Oh god, it was.
That's an experience. It's an experienced developer.
Oh yeah,
you need to get.
16 years ago, they had the same problem. They've had 16 years of experience, and they still can't solve it.
What they've done is different people have tried it, and they've tried different ideas. What they haven't done is take if I had $1 bajillion, which hopefully the crypto will take off, I will, but you start your own service that you hire people just to do launches. Mm-hmm. Right? That's all they do, right? And then you farm out your launch. This is all they do. They will, in 2 years, 3 years, learn more than any other game company out there about launching the games because they're going to focus on that. Mm-hmm. That's just like testing, or you need to focus on that because if you look at it, what they do is they have teams that go through each one, whether it's ESO, whether it's New World, whether it's WoW. It's the same way. You have sets of teams, right? They have sets of teams that go through and they do launches every year or so, right? Depending on whether they do chapters or whatever they're going to do. And their DLCs, that's not what they do every day, right? So if you had a small company would farm out that every day of the week, every month, every year, they do launches, they would know exactly how to do it.
Because they really only need the bandwidth and the servers for about the first 2 weeks?
Right. And
Yeah,
with
generally,
AWS,
yeah.
that's easy to do, right?
And then
so
they
it's a
can move
matter
on
of understanding.
they can move on
Yes.
to the next game developer, the next
Yes.
studio, whoever,
You
and then they can
farm
help
it
them
out.
with the next launch. They could take the next month, prep for the next launch, launch them,
Do the same,
and then move
yeah.
on to the next one, do the
Yep.
next thing, and then
Rinse
as long
and
as they've
repeat.
scheduled it all out,
And they're probably
everything will work
doing
great.
2, 3, 4 launches a year. How quickly will they learn? Right? They'll
Yeah.
learn what to do, what not to do real fast, especially if you're using things like the cloud to hold the servers.
Yeah.
There's actually a couple things from chat. So Octavian says launch is going to be a mess, and I agree with that because I've never seen an MMO launch, regardless of how much testing that happened. I don't think there has ever been a smooth launch in the history of MMOs.
Ark.
I was like, you were about to say
He's like,
something
"What?"
to me. Yeah. I was, and he's saying there is
some
no
have been
avoiding
smoother
that.
than others. There's at least in that.
Yeah. But at some point,
Cyberpunk.
oh my god! Don't bring that up. Don't bring that up. It's poor
That's
old
not even an
CDPR.
MMO.
The weeks after launch is gonna be the real test. Yeah, I mean, once that initial hype dies down and people start going about their daily lives, their jobs, and everything like that, the load starts to spread out to different times of the day and everything like that. So it starts
That's
to
exactly
calm
what's going
down.
to happen.
Well, look at
And-
the beta, right? The first, day, 2 days?
Yeah, it was a mess,
There
and then
were wait times, there were queues, and
Yep.
the third, fourth day, you just get
Not
right
more.
in.
Mhm.
At least on our server.
They just don't have queues at day one. Not an actual launch.
Yeah, but then at what point are you overpopulating your servers? Right? And then
What does
your
it matter
servers
if
are
you
going
can
to
turn
die
them
down.
off? What does it matter if you turn them off and merge them, right?
Well, that goes back to why
In theory, they can do
practiced-
that.
That's why they practice the merge.
Yep.
The server merge on the last beta.
To see if
And
they can
apparently
do
it
that.
failed.
Yeah, that
So
didn't
it's
go
good that they tested
well.
it.
And I feel like they are going to test that again this time around, maybe on the last day or something, because during the beta, they had issues with the server merge. So I can see them trying their fixes again. And to your point as to getting to level 60, there's actually a good point, unless they boost everyone to level 60 to test wars. Because one of the major server issues and the lag happened during those mass PvP moments. So the only way to test that properly within a 3-day period is to just boost everyone to high levels, or I don't know, increase the experience gain for like 10,000 at least.
Or allow you to create a endgame character.
Oh yeah,
in the character builder.
that too.
Yeah.
ESO does that very nicely. I mean, you can just come up with a whole bunch of different template characters to start testing immediately. So they didn't
they'll
say
use the
anything
cash
about
shop
it.
to
I
give
hope
you a
they
token
don't.
for 60 to test it.
I mean, if they put
Yeah.
that in for testing, people will get the wrong idea, and a lot of people will just ignore the fact that it was for testing. And there will be videos like New World is selling level 60 characters in their cash shop and everything.
God.
So I wouldn't do it
I was
because
joking.
people.
I was
Pay to
joking.
win. Pay to win.
I know, but yeah.
They'll say that even if they don't. It's okay.
Right, yeah. They already are.
So yeah, but basically 3-day testing on September 9 to September 12, just a couple weeks from now. They also say there will be technical tests under NDA from now to basically all the way until open beta. So do keep checking your emails, especially if you were in the alpha tests. They might invite you for some technical tests, but you won't be able to share anything from those. But it's good that they're also, before mass testing, they're also getting some people in to test the stuff in a smaller scale. Anything I want to add other than those? Nope. The open beta won't be under NDA, so we'll just be able to stream the whole thing. I might do like a 24-hour stream or something. I don't know. Just because it's only 3 days. But we'll see.
Only 3 days.
And
Only
the
24
progress
hours.
will not carry
Yeah,
over,
no
so I don't want to
Notice
burn
there's no gray
myself
hair in
out.
Ark's beard. That's why he can only 3 days. That's okay.
It's fine.
I mean, I did once stay awake for 75 hours back in university. I ended up in the ER, so I learned not to.
See, I
Not
only
to
did
do that.
48, so there you go.
It was a bad idea, so yeah, don't do that, people. It's
That's
not
how he
worth
got
it.
the gray in his beard. That's where it came from.
That's it.
So they also announced today that there will be, I will try to get this show out tomorrow, actually, ignoring the early access for this specific episode, because these are huge news. That tomorrow on twitch.tv/Twitch Gaming, which is Twitch's own like special events channel, at 11:35 a.m. PT or 2:35 p.m. ET, there will be a special developer Q&A that they will be doing. So I will hopefully be able to push this episode out before that happens, so everybody who listens to us gets those news as well and able to jump in. We'll definitely discuss those as well, both on our Twitter or in the next episode that we do. But that's just a quick mention. We don't know about it just yet. Thank you for the link in chat as well, Sivian. Also, in Gamescom, we got some hints and some teases from what's his name, the studio director, actually. So he said, the game director Scott Lane, in a very short, like a minute-long interview type video, he mentioned what their plans are for the future and gave some hints for what's to come to Aeternum. So they're going to be working on new features and everything for years to come. They plan on keeping this game going for several years, and that's obvious. It's an MMORPG. It has to have a long lifetime. Apparently, people have been requesting more supernatural elements in Aeternum, as well as more weapons. And while saying that, they showcased these new gauntlets in just like a second-long image. Now, these are very intricate designs. They are beautifully designed, and I love how these look. But the point I want to make is, especially, they are in different colors and different themes. And we know there has been some leaks. Everybody knows about it. We chose not to talk about it, but Void Gauntlet has been mentioned here and there. And I want to say one of these definitely does look like a Void Gauntlet. It's purple.
They look good.
Yeah, they are very nice. And on Twitter, when Greg, my Streamlabs froze, so I can change the images right now, but so on Twitter, someone was like, is that a Void Gauntlet? And Greg, who is the content creation relations person in for New World, it was like, technically they are called Gamescom Showcase images. And then he put a GIF of someone winking.
That was a non-confirmation confirmation, is what that was.
Yeah. So I guess
what
they
the
are.
word is.
So I guess they are sort of approaching this as cats out the bag type way. But yeah, they are very nicely designed gauntlets that are in different shapes and colors. So one of them is sort of this green color, and I kind of want to feel like maybe that's a Angry Earth related, like nature related gauntlet that might come in the future, in addition to the ice and the void ones. So we'll see, but there are some cool stuff that are definitely coming, and obviously everyone's expecting a great sword, but I haven't seen anything about that. But I want a great sword too. We'll see.
And something else that he mentioned too was group gameplay, right? So they were going to be focusing more on group gameplay. If you mentioned that, sorry, I didn't hear that, but
no,
yeah,
I hadn't yet. Yeah,
I'm really excited about that, right? Because you have your dungeons, which are always fun. I mean, everybody loves a good dungeon, but I'm curious to see how they're going to be going after that group gameplay and see what they're doing.
I would love some extra questing, not just expeditions, but normal quests that we can do as a group. Because right now, the overworld of Aeternum, other than the PvP missions, are mostly solo playing. Basically, it's sort of like Elder Scrolls Online, where questing is very much a solo experience. Especially, actually, if you are grouped up, it plays against your will, because some of the creatures spawn so scarcely that it's like, I mean, hunting elks for example. Nightmare. You know, there's 5 people trying to get the elks, and it's like there's only one spawning every 5 minutes.
The
So
You just gotta know where to
the
go.
sheep. Actually, while I was playing, I was a marauder, and one of our Everfall or Windsvart, I don't remember, PvP missions was hunting sheep. There was a couple syndicate members, not PvP enabled, just sniping sheep, so that we couldn't complete the quests. It was a beautiful way of...
They were just griefing.
Yeah, they were sabotaging, and it worked. They kept us from doing that quest while not being PvP enabled, and it worked. And I was like, I am not even mad. That's a good way of sabotaging the other faction.
There needs to be an emote. There needs to be an emote that's like just you tip your hat to them and you go, "Good play, sir," and then you move on to do some other quest.
Yeah. I hope they add more.
It doesn't make me mad either, right? I mean, smart tactic, but it's kind of cheesing the system a little bit, if you will, because they're not flagged for PvP, and you're trying to do a PvP quest.
But people always cheese the system, whether it's life or whether it's games. Everybody cheeses the system. The thing is, can you be better at it? Are you better at cheesing the system than they are, right? So what I would do is I'd go at 2 a.m. and they won't be there because they'll be asleep. So it's okay.
Yeah.
And it depends what you want to do, right? You just got to think about how would I cheese them out?
Sorry, I'm just thinking of you setting an alarm to kill sheep.
Hey, I've done that, right? So I get up in the morning and there's nobody here. I get it done in 5 minutes. I'm good to go, right?
Yeah.
I work from home. What does it matter what time I go to bed and get up?
That's what I'm going to be doing just to play with you guys on NA side. I mean, my prime time, I basically play on both EU and NA prime times because of my sleep schedule not existing. But yeah, like I'll be able to, if I'm awake during the day, I'll just be able to play while the server is empty on NA. And if I'm awake during the night, I'll just be able to do stuff while the server is empty on EU. So yeah. And so a couple things from chat again. In the event they announced in the video, there was a 2-handed sword. That was as far as I know, that was a boss creature, not a player creature, not a player. But
player creatures announced here first. You heard it here first.
It does exist in the game on some of the enemies, as you mentioned, but when will it be available for players? I do not yet know. And Octavian again says, green and purple gauntlets look like maybe nature and void. And Ishibu says, or poison. Yeah, poison also makes sense. It could be poison too. I can see that happening. And Octavian again says, if they are grouped up, I'm fairly certain it counts for the whole group. I don't think I quested with people because it's so difficult to get on the same quest. Maybe you are correct. Don't quote me on that side of it. Do you guys know if you are grouped up, the quest counts or not for everybody?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right. So that's, at least there is that. But yeah, again, quests don't really have any content to it that pushes you to do them in a group, since they are mostly kill 5 things and fetch 3 things quests, which I'm hoping they will change, and we are going to get into it a bit more in detail in a little bit once we get through the new stuff.
ESO, are there any quests that take groups? Right?
There used to be, and then they removed them. Basically, Craglorn in ESO used to count as an adventure zone that required you to have 4 people to progress. Like, people needed to stand on pedestals and everything like that. People did not like it because Elder Scrolls Online's, at least early community, was really solo players, like heavily made up of people who came from single-player Elder Scrolls games. So yeah, they removed Craglorn as an adventure zone. We'll see how the
so that's a
future
good point, right? If they set those up, that'd be good, but they have to put forethought into it, because grouping, it seems to me, is a late thought for them because they're focused on PvP and factions. Yeah. So grouping when the PvE was like, oh, hey, if we're going to do more PvE, let's do this. Hey, let's add groups, right? So I think we're going to get more of it. It's not going to be at first, in my thought.
Yeah. Well, Storms, think of the progression of the game, though, right? So when it first came out, it was an open world PvP. So groups, like you mentioned, weren't even a part of it. They weren't even a thought.
I would like to see quests that adjust that scale per size of group.
Oh, that would be nice.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because then you could design it so like you enter a cave and you're a solo player, and so therefore you have to fight 2 of these cave monsters, right? And that's the goal, is to fight the 2 cave monsters, retrieve the shiny gem that they drop, and then leave the cave. But if you enter as 4 people in a group, well, now there's 8 of them, and you got to clear 8 of them. Or there's an even bigger monster that's the equivalent of like fighting 8 of these guys. And then and then it drops 4 shiny gems. You each pick up one of the gems and you leave, you know? And I could see a way that you could scale that. You know, I mean, software.
Yeah.
I'm not a developer myself, but
definitely doable. Yeah.
Theoretically, that's doable.
That's a good thought.
It's a matter of thinking of it ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
That's where you get into.
You have to plan it, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's deep enough of an object that you're going to want to plan that ahead of time, and I don't think they did.
No,
so
not at
I
the
think
moment.
it will be added. I just don't think it's there yet.
Yeah, and a lot of
you're right. I think that'd be a cool thing to do.
And a lot of the problems they are running into with questing and making that into like a nice experience is coming from the fact that this game was not initially designed with the PvE in mind. They are now working on it. They are working hard on it, and they are adding a whole bunch of things. But it's just not there yet, and it'll come in like a year or 2, I would assume. But there's definitely some time.
Most MMOs get better as they go along.
I'm looking again. ESO, since we all know ESO, first year of ESO was they almost shut the game out, and the developers talk about how the then CEO, may his soul rest in peace, he died just a while ago, I believe. But how he went up to the developers of Elder Scrolls Online and ZeniMax Online Studios. He was like, okay, I'm giving you a year to fix this game. We are not shutting this down. You guys got a year, just make this work. And then they made Elder Scrolls Online to the giant in MMORPG genre that it is today. So it definitely takes time to get it working.
And one of the things that helped, at least from a ASO perspective, was Tamriel 1. Right? You made people think differently than you'd expect them to in an MMO.
Yeah.
New World, while patterns itself after a typical MMO, it needs to show something different than a typical MMO, or it's just going to be one of the bunch. Yeah, it's going to be a big publisher, but come on, show us something different. So that's what I'm looking for. And hopefully the idea of a group questing, they'll go, hey, it's a great idea. Let's do that.
Honestly, I think the most unique part of New World, and the part that I absolutely love, is just the gameplay. Because the combat of New World is, I mean, every other major MMORPG out there, as far as I know, is target-based. Like, things home in, if you fire an arrow, it follows the target and everything like that. It's targeted. New World is pure action combat, and that part of it is what I absolutely love about it. And why I don't mind quests or lore being not there yet as it could be, because I just enjoy the gameplay so much. And
you get all awesome excited when you hit a deer or hit an elk from across the way and you can barely see it, right? And you can track it just right to pop you. Like, oh, that's awesome, right? That's a big deal when you're not tag targeting.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And then just as you get there, someone runs in and starts skinning it. It's like,
and they start doing it, right? Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. There's your griefers.
Yeah, that one guy.
To Ark's point, the from the lore side, which we're going to get to in a little bit, I think that what we're also seeing is a delay on the development of the lore as well, because the gameplay was first and foremost, and then now we're getting development towards PvE stuff and an expansion towards lore, because if you didn't have the gameplay loop in a state where people wanted to do it and wanted to keep coming back and doing it, it didn't matter how good the lore was. People weren't just going to come back and sit in the lore. Or you're just going to go open up the game and just reread the text dialogue multiple times. Like no, you're not going to do that, right? So you have to have the gameplay loop there first. So we'll talk more about that later. You might, but thousands and thousands of other people probably not.
So there is a couple lore videos, as you mentioned, they are adding Like, they are now focusing on the lore side of things, and they've been releasing these very nice 4 or 5 minute long lore videos called Tales of Aeternum, which makes me really happy that I didn't name the show Tales of Aeternum, because I almost did, following our other show, Tales of Tamriel. So, and it's basically in-character lore lessons almost from the characters that exist in Aeternum, in the game. And we are going to play them now. They are about 8 minutes total. Before that, I want to just have a quick another mention from, again, game director Scott Lane. He was like, holiday season is coming up, and I wonder how that might look in Aeternum. So we can expect a holiday event in Aeternum after the launch. That's just a thing that we were expecting anyway. But yeah, so I'm going to switch to the videos. And I'm going to let them play for both our video listeners and audio listeners. And then we are going to get into the lore side of things and pick Robot's brain a little bit about it.
Astronomer, historian, and seeker of truth. Since first arriving on Aeternum, my fascination has been this mysterious land and the various people who have at one point or another ruled over it. The ruins that cover this island are clear evidence of an ancient race who built a magnificent civilization that existed long before any humans set foot upon these shores. Where they came from, I have yet to discover. The ancients harnessed the power of Azoth, using it to perform their miracles and extend their lives. But perhaps the use of this great power came at a catastrophic price. There are clues within the ruins of a terrible conflict having taken place at some point during the reign of the ancients. I believe that the guardians that roam these lands and protect the sacred sites of the ancients were the foot soldiers in this conflict. Since corruption infests many parts of Aeternum, I conclude that the ancients did not emerge victorious. Further, since the ancients have disappeared, I am left to wonder if they survived at all. Today, we only know the ancients by the things they left behind. Monuments to their lost culture can be found across all of Aeternum, sparking fascination in scholars. Less welcome are the legions of formidable guardians that still maintain their vigil. Guardians exist in perpetual servitude to their lost masters. Adorned with ancient armor and wielding deadly weapons, they defend the ruins, temples, and monuments the ancients left behind. While they may appear to be soulless members of the lost, these magical warriors are actually much more deadly, relentlessly defending their masters' secrets even though their masters are long gone. Appearing as living skeletons, guardians stoically patrol important ancient sites, responding to any perceived threat with ceaseless violence. These warriors will not tire nor rest. The only way to stop them is to destroy the pulsing stone sphere housed within their chest. This nucleus of Azoth acts as the Guardian's heart. Destroy it, and you will destroy the Guardian. In my studies, I have pinpointed certain sites where ancient Guardians are known to appear. I have not found a definitive pattern for all locations they patrol, except to say that they inevitably appear in any location that was deemed of importance to the ancients. One such place is Reekwater. This boggy swamp is said to be the original birthplace of the Guardians, where the ancients first transformed humans into their restless soldiers through unnatural rituals performed within the pool of eternity. It is said that those who delve into the Lazarus Well expedition will come face to face with one of the most fearsome guardians that ever existed. Little is known about this creature, as few have survived encounters with it. Another mysterious monument lies in the plains of Mourningdale. Here you can find one of the most well-preserved ancient temples in all of Aeternum, lying untouched among the ruins of a city. What secrets could lie inside? I could only hope that I can uncover the secrets myself. In the heart of Aeternum, you will find the lush land of Everfall and the shattered obelisk. a perplexing relic of the Ancients' civilization. Some believe this mysterious artifact holds the secret to the Ancients' technology and the purpose of the many towers scattered across the region. Be on your guard when exploring this location, for it is known to be well defended. There is still so much we don't know about the Ancients. Where did they come from? How did they build the awesome structures that can be found across Aeternum? And will they return to reclaim their land? It is up to you to find out.
You wish to know more of the Angry Earth? If it will keep you alive a while longer, I, Marsh Walker Afolabi, will be happy to enlighten you. Aeternum has always been a place of great natural beauty. But, as I'm sure you've discovered, the land itself can resist you. It's as though nature is trying to prevent you from taking advantage of its bounty. The Angry Earth are physical manifestations of that resistance to wayfarers like yourself. Some believe that the land itself felt the corruption sweeping through Aeternum and decided to fight back. Others say that the Angry Earth are as old as Aeternum itself and have protected this land long before anyone set foot here. These creatures have always fascinated me. They occupy a special place in the natural order of the island. When angered, their purpose becomes clear. They're protectors of the land and take their roles rather seriously. Should you arouse their ire, well, perhaps you deserve their retribution. A blight is steadily corrupting their kind, and some of the Angry Earth have succumbed to its influence. I have heard from the Rangers of Eden Grove that these blighted creatures are even more dangerous than usual. More often than not, you'll find the Angry Earth in their elemental form. When the Angry Earth take on a humanoid form, we call them Dryads. I do not know why they have chosen this form. What I do know is that they're incredibly intelligent, very aggressive, and willing to fight anything that threatens Aeternum. That includes you, of course. You'll rarely find a Dryad on their own. They like to work together to overwhelm and utterly destroy their enemies. A brilliant tactic they excel at. You'd be wise not to walk through their territory alone, unless you have some brave companions. I have heard stories that Eden Grove is something of a birthing place for them. They say creatures spawn from within the gnarled, twisted trees and plants of what people call the Garden of Genesis, though the blight in the region affects the Angry Earth's life cycle. Reekwater, however, is more of a grave for the Angry Earth. I have seen them travel to the Eternal Pool to merge once more with the land we walk on, dispersing their life force into the flora and fauna as they do so. In some ways, I feel a strange connection to the Angry Earth. I sympathize with them. They simply wish to protect this land from outside threats. And us, humans, most certainly are a threat. If we are to survive in Aeternum, we must learn to live alongside those who wish to protect it. After all, there are darker forces at work in these lands than the Angry Earth. But those tales are for another time. For now, I must return to my duties in the Reekwater marshes. Farewell, Wayfarer, and may fortune travel with you.
I'd like to wake up with that face over your head. I'm out here.
So those were the two of the Tales of Aeternum series that they started pushing out. And I am really, really loving them because, well, first of all, as mentioned in chat, the voice acting, absolutely fantastic. The videos, the cinematics, gorgeous. But from a lore point of view, I'm going to start with my opinion, and I'm going to throw the ball mainly to robots here. I feel like at this point, at least, they have a really good base for what they could expand on, both with the Ancients and the Angry Earth, the Azoth, and the Corruption. They have these 4 main things on the island. But at this point, it kind of feels like they had these creature or whatever models and the world ready. Because as we know, the game didn't have any PvE or quest or lore focus at the beginning. Now they are trying to build lore on top of the concept that they have, basically add on top of it. So I don't know how that's going to go in the long run. Because when you look at, for example, the Ancients, they're just skeletons with these magical temples spread all around. So they are building on the lore on top of it. And I don't know how in-depth they are going to be able to go with it. But as the not resident, but maybe you can be resident. Robots.
Visiting, at least. But
visiting
lore, I'd love to
lore,
come back and visit whenever, sure.
Visiting lore expert on the show at the moment. What do you think about how they are doing so far, how they are delivering this lore in the game, and where this lore can go from here?
Okay, so first of all, I love these 2 videos. I think these videos are fun. They're in universe. The cinematics are super fun. The voiceovers are fun. They're giving us lots of cool little, animations and gameplay bits. Some mysterious little dialogue. They're wrapping it up with characters and all sorts of stuff. I think that stuff's great. I think that this is a very, this game's just about to launch, so we're getting. This is the teaser trailer of the lore, right? This is the, hey, we're a new group of people investigating this new land, and this is what we're finding. And there's something going on with the corruption and the angry earth, and there's something going on with this race of people who were here and they're no longer here, and this is what remains of them. And there are these spooky skeletons that are guarding their runes, and all of this stuff that's going on. And there's a mystery. What is the mystery, right? And that's fun. Everybody loves a mystery. We know what there is to investigate. It's got our attention, and we know that these are the things that we are going to be investigating. We know these are the bad guys. We're going to fight these bad guys. And this sets up some questions for us to solve. Now, it also sets up an interesting moral quandary. And if anybody's listened to any of my shows, you know that I have a background. I have 2 bachelor's degrees. I have a degree in philosophy and a degree in religious studies. So I studied deep thinking and how not to get a job out of college. So I like to cover
myself at this point.
So I like to cover these kinds of questions when we cover lore, because a lot of lore from games pull from philosophies and religions and cultures and histories in the real world. Well, what we have in New World is we have this age of colonization, and we went through this in the real world, right? We also have the dilemma of the corruption of nature, which we're currently going through in the last 150 years with global warming and all this kind of stuff, right? So they're treading some very morally ambiguous areas here. Like what do we do with a colonizing force that's landing in a new world? And in this case, the peoples of this world are no longer alive, it seems. They have remnants of their civilization, so we're not destroying or enslaving them. We're just exploring the remnants of that civilization. So there's a mystery. So we're maybe landing on a new land area and settling that land, not necessarily colonizing it. Okay, so we can wipe the sweat off our brows. we dodged the bullet that time. We're not hurting other humans. We're good. What about the Earth? Are we hurting the Earth? Well, no, the Earth was already angry for some reason. And it's been corrupted from something that previously happened before we got here. So, okay, we dodged the bullet on that one too. We didn't cause the Earth to be angry. It was angry before we got here, but we still have to fight it because it's already angry. And whenever we go anywhere, it thinks that we're part of the problem. And okay, so we at least have something to fight. So what's causing all of this? So I have some theories. And I think that what they're trying to lead us towards, whether this is actually what's happening or not, seems to be that the previous peoples were trying to utilize some special magics, powers, Maybe it was the Azoth, the powers that were inherent in nature in the Azoth, and we're delving into the corruption of nature and necromancy. And that's why we see the remnants of their culture in the skeletal remains of their guardians. And maybe the corrupted forms of nature that are guarding things. And nature fought back, and that corruption spread. And so they were the cause of their own demise, because nature fought against the corruption that they were causing, which caused these two problems: the remnants of their necromancy and the corruption they caused in nature itself. And those things caused their demise. And now a new culture has found this place that has now been corrupted in two different ways, through necromancy and through the corruption. And we are going to end up being the good guys, quote unquote, because we didn't cause that corruption and we didn't cause the necromancy. And we will end up having to save the land from these terrible forces that were unleashed by this culture accidentally, maybe. Maybe it wasn't even the leaders of that culture. Maybe it was some terrible leader, but it wasn't the people at large. You know, like, we're going to delve into that story. Maybe there were factions. Maybe it was an evil faction that fought against the good faction, and the good faction was aligned with nature and wanted to do good things, but it was the bad, priests who took over and corrupted everybody. Who knows? I'm sure they're going to delve into this over years and years and years, and we're going to get deeper and deeper into the lore. But for right now, this seems to be what I think they're setting us up to discover, at least in the first year or two of content. That's where I think we're going. What do you think?
Well, this was exactly why I wanted you on this piece of the because that was definitely.
Now, I could be completely wrong. We could completely go in a completely different direction. But based on what I've seen so far, this is how I would piece the puzzle pieces together.
And to your point, in the video, it does mention the ancients used Azoth on humans to turn them into these guardians to begin with.
Yes. And I think that somehow corrupted them and turned into some form of necromancy, which gave them some sort of enduring life that wasn't supposed to. It goes against nature, right? Yeah. And nature doesn't like that.
And they did say that there's, in these old ruins, there are like signs of a huge battle that happened. Now, was that battle between the humans that were getting turned into these guardians and the ancients? Or between the ancients and the angry earth? Or something
Or a faction among the humans who were
Mm-hmm.
against the corruption of the other humans and were trying to stand against it, but it was too late. There were too many corrupted humans. There was too much angry earth. Who knows? Like, it could have been all of these factions coming together in some sort of cataclysmic battle of five armies kind of thing. They still have time to flesh that out however they want to. And that's the thing. That's the thing with any of these fictions, is as long as they're vague, they are buying themselves time to really flesh this out.
To figure out their own lore.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So they only have to commit to as much as they're willing to tell us. And then they can start to really solidify things piece by piece as they start to actually work it into the game.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, very good point. I mean, I was skeptical until you went on about the I'm gonna say ranted about the possible lores, and now I'm more hopeful about the future of it, because I didn't think it that in depth about everything that they have given us so far. But yeah, that makes it a lot more hopeful. Now, as you said, we don't have too much time, but what do you think about the delivery of this lore so far? Like the quests they have, the in-game, textbooks and whatnot. How where they can improve in terms of the delivery of like the storytelling of all of this?
I think that they've learned a lot from other MMOs, especially Elder Scrolls Online with the lore books. I think that that's a wonderful way to deliver the lore, because it allows the players to read it at their own convenience. They can, and we know 80% of the player base will never actually open up the lore books and read them. There's a reason why you and I can do podcasts about these things and talk about it is because they'd rather put a podcast on and have you or I talk about the lore than actually open it up and read it in game, right? That's why we can become podcasters, because we can read it to them and then they'll listen to it while they're commuting to work or working out or whatever.
Good point.
What was that?
Sivian, they caught us. Dang it.
Yeah, right. But there is a 20% of the audience that loves that stuff. And whether they take the time while they're questing to stop, open it up, read through it in the moment because it adds to the quality of the quest, or they just want to collect that stuff and then in a moment when they don't feel like questing, just sit back, open that stuff up later, or ironically buy a compendium called Tales of whatever from an online shop and put it in their bathroom and read it while they're on the toilet or whatever. They can read it at a later date and then they get all the lore bits from that, and that's an amazing way. It works in the Elder Scrolls games, it works in other things. I also enjoy the quest text in the quest, just the quest that you go on. It's not too long, it's not too short. It's a quick little bit of info. It gives you a basic reason for why you're doing a thing. You talk with a character, you get a little bit of stuff, you're off on your way, you're having fun, you're in the gameplay loop doing the thing, you're back, you're dropping off a quest, you get a little bit more text about doing this next thing and why you're doing it, and then you go back to the game loop. It's quick and it's good. And again, you get another book, and if you want to read it, you can read it. And I think that's perfect. Plus, they're giving us these videos, and if they give these videos and they keep this going on kind of a regular basis, especially every time they announce another patch or another dungeon or something cool's happening in the game with some sort of big event, and they're dropping the lore in the videos, guess who's a lot more likely to watch a cool looking video than take time to read a book in the game?
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah,
right?
true.
And I think I was going to take the approach of making it a point to read more of that lore that's in the game, right? I skipped through it during the beta because I was excited about the game. I wanted to play the beta, and I knew it wasn't the official release. So I think when, the game comes around, we actually hopefully hit our release date, I will take that time to progress through all that lore.
Yeah.
You can hold me to that, Storms.
That means I have to hold me to it first, so that's okay.
Right.
The questing part is the only part I'm going to disagree on that, because I feel like the quests need a lot more, both in terms of dialogues and variety. Now, variety they can add in the future. The quests were a bit rushed, I guess, trying to actually implement the mechanics of it within just a year span.
Okay,
but
yeah. If we're talking about the types of things you're doing on the quest, I was talking about the lore aspect of just like the way they deliver the lore through the quests. But when it comes to the things you're doing in the quests, I think the game is very par for the course for a new MMO. You're kind of doing the base kind of stuff in the quests.
Yeah.
Go here,
and you're going to get the more creative stuff as the game progresses.
Yep.
From a lore perspective too, though, because I want to connect with characters in the game. If I'm interested in the lore and the storyline, I need to connect to characters and sort of feel what they are feeling, right? And with the current dialogue level, I am not getting that in New World. That's my main concern with it as is, because there's just so little. For example, one of the main characters, that soul shriven looking guy, the soul warden fella, the fisher. He has so little dialogue that now his dialogues are really nice because he is this very mystical, even ancient looking character. And his quest line, if you look at the texts and read the markings on the walls and everything, the writing is great in those things. They have some poems, they have some journal pieces, and the writing is really good and it's filled with emotion. But that writing does not carry over to the characters' dialogues, at least yet. And I really want some of that,
like Elder Scrolls, voice acted experience.
Don't make it for players who just want to rush through it. Don't make it mandatory. But give me some of that text and whatnot that I find in the world, carry that over to the character, so I build a more, a better connection with the character instead of just reading it through a page I found in the world. That's my problem with the current level of the quests.
And that's a very good point. There really is. And that shows the way they divided it up and they figured it out, right? The way they laid out their teams is they have the dialogue folks separate from the lore folks. But the lore folks, the way they're doing it, it's what they've started, right? To me is very well put together, spread out. They made, things in different parts of the areas, right? Reflect upon each other. Well, like you said, they don't reflect upon what's going on with the characters. So I think what they're missing is some sort of integration between the lore and the dialogues.
Yeah.
And
I think you're right.
They will get there. I think they will. I think it's a good point of yours, Ark. It's a matter of where you put, let's call it the reviewers, right? Do you put the reviewers over the quests and over the lore, or over both? So that they can say, hey, you know what if we do this, do this, and this, right? One of the reasons you have more echelons of portfolio managers and such like that is they can look over the lore and the dungeons and the dialogue and that and say, oh, you know what? If we did this over here, we should really mention this over here. So why don't you take this to that team and make sure you look at that? And you can use your different tools to do that as well. But if somebody who their sole job is to look at all that together, that's when you get a really involved story.
Yeah, it's the difference between telling you the story and actually getting you to experience the story.
Yes, exactly. I like looking at my characters as I'm writing my own novel, right? I've got my own character. I'm taking it from the beginning. If I choose to be, whatever I choose to be, and that could change, right? That's because my character's doing that. And I remember each of my characters on ESO, all 14 of them, what they did, why they did what they did it, right? And it's just, for me, it's a way of keeping that world alive, is those characters are me in that world.
Yeah.
All 14 of you.
All 14.
Well, Ark, you asked a question about the lore, like how much have we seen? If we go back to yesterday without these videos, right? How much lore has been out there about the game?
Not much, yeah. I mean, I made it up to
really...
level 35 in the game, and I tried to read and the most of the stuff, and there wasn't this much info. At least, well, I mean, you could tell ancients, okay, they are the civilization in the past, whatever. But the more details, they were using Azoth to do whatever stuff they were doing, or the Angry Earth, always being there fighting people. So these videos do add more in-depth and concise, more compact information. So
right, and it goes back to what Robots was saying too, right? They're building and Storms that foundation of lore, and they're just gonna start piecing it all together. I mean, it's something we talked about on a previous episode, that it feels like it's there, but it's not there, right?
See, they were listening,
teasing you.
Yeah.
They're getting there. Take some time.
And I think part of it is that they don't have the story written yet either.
They don't know it.
Most likely.
They don't know it yet. They have kind of a rough framework, but I don't think they have a and this isn't to be insulting in any way. They have they're not J.R.R. Tolkien writing the Lord of the Rings and having already written the Silmarillion, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They're working on the Silmarillion, and they're only on the second chapter, right? That's where they are, and they barely have the first chapter kind of wireframed out a little bit. That's this point that they're in.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
It's safe to assume that until just a year and a half, 2 years ago, they probably didn't even have writers in the studio, because that's not what their then objective was. So this is going to build from ground up, as you said, and I guess we are not going to see much until, I don't know what their release schedule will be like after the launch. Are they going to do expansions or DLCs? But I feel like we are going to get more of that once we release.
I'm already getting ideas for things that I think would be really cool. Amazon, hey, you guys want ideas? Let me know.
They're actually very responsive.
I've got ideas.
They're actually very responsive on Twitter. And I did mention after this Ancients video, I was like, maybe an Ancients themed, like an expansion that is focusing only on the Ancients. And they replied with, we don't have any current information about expansions, but that's a good idea. And we are gonna relay that to the team. So,
dude, what if their corruption like got underground and all of a sudden you're delving with like, underground like rock creatures and things like that. And then what if some of the ancients, it spreads out to sea? What if some of the people actually took refuge underground and we end up coming across some of the ancient people that are still around, but they've been living underground for hundreds of years and they're different from the people that are still there. And they can tell us firsthand through some of their history, they got passed down word of mouth what happened, but yet it's different because it's from their perspective, so it's not 100% accurate anymore. Like there's so many things you could do with this world because they've created a foundation that's interesting enough that you could build it out in lots of different ways. And as long as you bring in, like ESO, as long as you bring in unreliable narrators, you can do whatever you want, and then you can start coming at it from different angles. And
ESO had a real heavy hand up though, right? With the lore that came in, right? So I am interested in how they're doing it. I think it's gonna be great. And just like we said, I think this was an afterthought because it was gonna be PvP, and then wait a minute, let's because Fortnite does not have a whole lot of lore, right? But this is why this is changing into we need some lore. Let's go hire somebody. Let's hire a team. They're probably working like crazy to catch up to all this, right? They probably have for a year trying to get there. And it's a matter of, this is going to be good. It's just a matter of, you got to give them time to breathe. And I think they will. I think they're showing a lot of improvement over where they were. But they have a long ways to go to compare to others.
Chat, no elves. No elves.
No elves.
No elves. Yeah, please.
Robots, you mentioned it's chapter 1, right? Maybe. We have a whole rest of the book to get through. That's what like really gets me excited about.
How big is this continent? How big is it?
No idea.
What other kinds of biomes are there? What other kinds of places are there? What other peoples are there on this continent that the corruption has or hasn't spread to? What other histories are there that we have or haven't been able to explore before? Is there like what about this? Like imagine a United States that was settled. Okay, we're talking about colonization, right? Colonization. You've got Europeans colonizing on the eastern side of the United States, or at least on the Americas, right? But what if colonization simultaneously happened from Asia on the western side? And what if we ran into an entire other group of people who were colonizing from the other side of a continent, from the other side of the planet? Like you could have these kinds of things happening in this kind of world space that has never been done in a video game before, and probably hasn't even been done in much literature before. Like you could take this all sorts of interesting places. Again,
that's exciting.
robotsradio.net. Let me know if you need.
I was gonna say I need to grab all of the parts that you were like going on to these potential lore bits, make them into a video, and just release that separately. Just robots talk Aeternum lore type thing, and just put that out there.
These are all just crazy ideas.
I like it though. I like it. Those are good ideas. That's it. We are going a little bit over time, and I don't want to keep you guys here all night because I don't sleep, but the actual people on the show, the humans, do sleep, so the normal ones. Before we wrap up, how will you spend the 3 days of open beta? That's the like sort of like the ending question. Robots, what is your plans?
I don't want to get too far into it because, like you stated before, they're going to wipe it again, and then we're going to have to start over. And so I don't want to spoil too much of the actual game that I'm going to be playing through again anyway. Sorry about the dogs in the background. But I do think I want to kind of narrow down what weapons I want to be using, where I'm going to go with my character build, so that when I do get into the game, I can kind of just hit the ground running. I think that's really what I want to do.
All right. Solid. And Sivian, what about you?
More or less the same thing, right? Just want to get in, just want to try and figure out, what are any of the main changes, if there were, and I guess really help them out with their development too, right? So try and cause the servers to catch on fire, if they will, in a cloud.
There you go, yeah. And Storms.
Most likely I'm not. Honestly, I have played enough New World with it having wiped. I'm like, 3 days? No, I'm sorry. I will work on something else. I'll work on a new chair or something instead of doing that. And but I'm looking very much forward to New World actually starting. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. I'm pretty much on the same boat. I'll see what changes there are, try out some of the weapons I didn't try during closed beta, and probably record a whole bunch of videos because I've been putting out these sort of ambience ASMR type videos that I've recorded during the closed beta. And people seem to be really liking them, so I'm gonna probably record more of those, but yeah, I won't progress because it's gonna get wiped again, and I wanna have all of my energy when the game actually launches. And that brings us to the end of the show. Now, chat has been amazing this show, so thank you all so very much for joining us on the live show. If you are listening this on audio format, as mentioned at the beginning of the show, feel free to reach out to us on email, on Twitter, on YouTube, and we'll do our best to sort of reply to everything and bring everything, your thoughts and everything to the show. And yeah, so before we end, final thoughts and where can people find you, starting with our special guest, Robots, once again.
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is robotsradio.net. Everything that I am working on and all of the shows on the Robots Radio Network are there. You can always just search Robots Radio Discord. You can find me there as well. And I'm almost every day, lurking around, posting some things on Twitter at robots_radio. So those are the best places to look me up. And if you're interested in any lore about pretty much every modern RPG out there, then just look up whatever that is, Lorecast podcast. Chances are I do a show about it. And if I don't yet, then write me a note and say, hey, why the heck don't you do a show about this? I'd love to have one. And maybe I'll kick one off. You never know.
There you go.
Thank you for having me on the show, guys. This has been super fun. Thank you so much.
It's been great.
Thank you for bringing it on.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely going to try to trick you back into it. That's 100%. So be ready about that.
Yeah, I'd love to join you again. Gugen? Did I say Gugen? Words are hard.
We understand.
It happens.
It
we are
sense.
podcasters. We can speak. Sivian, what about you?
You can find me over on Discord. We were talking about this, a company, not a guild, on Discord. So you can join us there. I'm also on Guilded as well. And from time to time, I do stream on Twitch, Twitch TV/Sivian21.
There you go. And the Guilded server, at least, is guilded.gg/Hands of Fate, I believe, right?
Correct. Yes.
And that will be the North American company for this community. And Storms, what about you?
Well, right now you can find me here. You can find me currently at digitalpepperstudios.com. I am working through whether or not to continue Digital Pepper Studios and move fully to a woodworking shop or not, but we'll find out.
Ooh.
Maybe I'll do both.
That is also the reason why he looks like he's prepping for a doomsday scenario in his video. For anyone who's watching this in the video format, chat brought it up earlier. He's a real-life crafter, specializing in woodworking. So there you go. That's why he has that look behind his camera. As for us and everything we do, so for EU company, I'm gonna start a Discord and I'll post that link everywhere on our website, on our Twitter account, and everywhere like that. We already have some folks who are ready to play. I just need to structure that Discord server and get it going. And for everything that we do, you can find all of those over at dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you can find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Discord, and a whole bunch of others. Be sure to check our Patreon at patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork if you want to help support us and get a bunch of benefits like early access, even though this show is not going to be, because I really want to push it out there right away. Some physical rewards and stuff like that. You can also leave us a 5-star review on iTunes so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes it matters. Thank you all so very much for joining us on this episode of the New World Compendium, and we will see you all next week. Have a great night, everybody.
The stories you've heard, they don't tell the whole truth. island is indeed a place of legend. There is power and vast riches as well. But many who've sought to claim them have simply vanished without a trace. Your ship is stocked and your crew assembled. Chart your course and your fate. We can pretend no longer. This corruption must be stopped. I will say a prayer for the souls of your crew.